Hey guys. All right, so we're in our school edition and we are going to be making a globe. Now, some of you may have seen a globe in your classrooms. I know now with smart boards and interactive things online, they're less common. But it used to be when I was growing up that you would go and you would turn the globe and you would find a spot. Be like, oh, because we couldn't see things in the same context that y'all can now. So, very important part of the classroom. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the circle for the globe itself. Now, you'll notice I'm drawing a broken line as I work on my circle. I have had kids ask, am I just going over my line again and again? And the answer is sometimes, but usually I'm making adjustments. So it's like, oh, well, I started going off there, or I started coming out there. So I'll kind of adjust it and I get it right before I erase the extra. Because it's easy to tell where I need to fix it if I can see what's wrong. If I erase it and I can't see what's wrong, then it's really difficult for me to not just do the same thing right over again. Okay, so here's what I have. I'm going to put a line for the north and south poles so that I know where they're coming through the globe. Usually they're at an angle. I'm not sure why, but it's a thing. All right, so it would come up and it would come out right here. All right. Now, I'm going to create the little cylinder that it comes up and holds onto. And then I'm going to give it a little cap. So I'm curving, coming in a little bit, coming in a little bit, and adding my oval on top. So it's kind of like a capped cone. So coming up to make the thickness of that pole. Then I'm making that capped cone. So curved, up, up, and with my oval. Okay, that way it doesn't poke anybody in the eye, which is always good. All right, I'm going to make my degrees along my measuring curve. So I'm going to follow the same curve as the globe and keep an equidistance around from one pole to the other. Okay, now I'm going to do that again a little bit higher to give it that width. Just like a ruler has width, these have width. And I'm trying my best to keep equidistance. Now, you and I both know that perfection is not something that just happens. That usually you end up adjusting, and it's still not going to be perfect because you're not a machine. But that's a good thing. If you only drew perfect lines, then there wouldn't be any point to seeing you draw it. We could just have a machine draw it and be done. All right. So we have this part of our globe ready. Now what we're going to do is get the stand on there. So it's coming from this measuring tool and it's coming straight down. So here's the center, and I'm going to get the base of a cylinder. All right, now remember, cylinders curve. So I do need that slight curve to show that it is a rounded object. Okay, now we're going to come from the middle, out and down, a slight rainbow-like shape, out and down. We're going to create a dome that cylinder is sitting on. All right, now, once again, we're using that curve to our advantage and curving from each side of our top. All right, now we're going to make a second curve. So I'm going to come and bump down and out just a little bit, down and out just a little bit. Okay, and then I will curve around. I'm trying to keep equidistance. I think that's good for what we're working on. Okay, Now, I'm not going to be really precise with my measurements. I'm just going to kind of be like cheating. So I'm going to try to put them evenly spaced apart. And these are going to be the big intervals. So, like if we were on a ruler, it'd be the inch marks as opposed to the quarter inch marks. All right. And then later with my Sharpie, I'm going to go in and do the very small ones. Now I need the part that comes and I guess kind of protects the globe from slowly wobbling and disintegrating. There's like a metal cap at the top, and sometimes there's a metal cap at the bottom. We'll go ahead and add one. Okay, now we're going to come in and get what would be the equator. Remember, the equator goes around the globe. I can't draw straight across because the globe is rounded. So just like I do when I get an oval, I've got to show that spherical progression by curving my line. Okay, now we're going to get the longitudinal lines. So we're not going to be exact about where they go, but we are going to be exact about the fact that they start opening up. So it comes and curves from one pole to the other, from one pole to the other, curving in the opposite way because we're going on the opposite side of the sphere. Then we're going to come over here and add the next one, curving a little bit wider so that it still goes from pole to pole, but so that it's closer to that edge. Then we're going to get this one, curving. You'll notice the height of my curve is generally at my equator. It's because that's the widest part of your sphere. From here, we're just going to add kind of like general shapes of the continents. Obviously, they're not going to be perfect. And I mean, maybe you want to make a fake globe. I don't know. I'm going to come and add South America. And then I'm going to add Central America. And then I'll add the US and Canada. And then I'm going to have Greenland and Iceland and England. Then I'll have Europe coming in over here. And then I'll have Africa. All right. So you'll notice they're really loose. And then I've got Antarctica down here. All right. Now remember, those are details because they are decorating your shape. So they're not the most important thing right now. What we need to do is the formative objects. So this cap, this cylinder, this stretch of measuring, that's what we need the most out of anything. Okay. And then I'm going to come down and get the bottom of it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. Remember, anytime you're working with something that's a cylinder, there is a slight curve to the bottom. You can't get rid of it. Now, before I go and do the cap, I'm going to go around the globe, around the edge of it. That way I have a set location and I know I'm not moving it around. Okay. There we go. All right, and I'm going to add my cap because now it's easy to just finish that off. All right. Next thing's next. We're going to do the big measuring curve. You'll notice I'm turning my paper so that it's a little bit easier for me to reach things and do a natural movement. Most people either do better going down or going up or going across. Usually your hand has a preference in the way that it is smoother traveling. So just pay attention and then make it work for you. If you have to contort your hand a lot, then it probably would be helpful to turn the paper so that you can have a more natural movement with less tangles. Okay. Now, before I go on, I am going to come and do those small lines so you can see them. And as we talked about, I'm not being super precise because it's more the idea of a globe rather than a perfect example of a globe that you could like actually measure on. So I'm just coming in, and you can decide whether you think, oh, I'm going to have like 5 lines in between each one, or I'm going to have 7 lines in between each one. Your call. I would try to make them even. If you have 2 in one place and you have 8 in another, then obviously that's not the same intervals of measurement. Okay, now to get the bottom. So I will come and Sharpie the bottom, starting from the cylinder since that goes onto and into the other part. Curve. All right. So the last thing we have left is the interior designs on the globe. I am going to do those with a thin Sharpie since I want the main focus to be what you're looking at shape-wise as opposed to detail-wise. And you can notice if you are looking right now that mine is not a perfect sphere and this is not perfectly even. We're just doing the best we can. That doesn't mean you don't try, but it does mean that you don't freak out just because it's a little off. It's better that you tried and you drew than to not try. Okay, here we are. Then I'll just like lightly come and do my continents. Just real gentle, kind of broken and wavy, so that we know it's not like geometric certainty. Like we said, the idea of a continent as opposed to the actuality of a continent. And there's Antarctica down there. Okay, so you guys are ready to erase and add color. If you want it to look more three-dimensional, then after you've added your basic blues and greens, come in and start shading ever so slightly darker as you get towards the edges of the sphere, and then lessen that shading as you come in. All right, we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.